You started with a dream, now you leading a team, working it closing them deals, working with purpose. You don't walk around with a purse, but you working it, walking in heels. Beauty and brains, speaking and fighting for change, intellectual and clever. You show the ladies everything a man can do, you can do better.
All right, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Kings Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Rashana Scott, and I am so excited to have this special guest here with us today. This special guest is actually family, and I am honored to call him a brother. I'm so excited for just the success that he and my good sis has shared over the last couple of months. They've had a lot of amazing, exciting things happening, and I cannot wait to share all of that with you guys. But help me welcome Mr. Dedric Polite.
Yes, thank you, Rashana. I appreciate the invite and happy to be here.
Absolutely. So again, I'm so excited that you said yes, because by Krystal being one of my best friends, I talk to her every day. So I know all of the things that you guys have going on in your business, your businesses, the many deals and opportunities that are coming your way. So I'm very excited to get into all of that later. But for those who may not know who Dedrick Polight is, please let us know.
Yeah, appreciate being here, and excuse my voice. I just lost my voice. I'm just getting it back. But yeah, I'm a real estate investor. I'm an entrepreneur. One half of Be PoliteProperties. I have an amazing wife who's also, your adopted sister now, Krystal Polite. And yeah, we're all about building generational wealth.
Okay. So I want to talk about the man before Be PoliteProperties, right? Who was Dedric? How did you become to be this superstar, right? What was life like growing up? And even, just life before having a family.
Yeah, so I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina. That's the Low Country. They call that Gullah Geechee land in South Carolina. Grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Was raised by a single mom. I'm the oldest of three boys. I have two younger brothers who are now grown men and have their own houses and lives. And yeah, grew up in Section 8 housing. Grew up in the hood in Boston and Roxbury. Was fortunate enough to be a pretty bright student coming up. So I was in advanced classes going through school, always played sports. I was able to get a full academic scholarship to a prestigious high school in Boston called Roxbury Latin. That took me out of the hood on a daily basis, and I got exposed to a new world, which I was going to school with the power elite of Boston and New England. So coming from a drug and a gang infested inner city neighborhood, and then being in that educational environment every day, I got to see both worlds, kind of see how the other side lived. And I realized that, it was up to me to kind of pull my family out of that poverty cycle. Going to that high school allowed me to get into an Ivy League school. I got a full academic scholarship to Amherst College. Went there, played football for 2 years. After 2 years, realized I wasn't going to the NFL. Even though I was on an academic scholarship. So I majored in having fun and partying my last 2 years, made some, lifelong friends, and I graduated from there. And I did what everybody else told you to do. They tell you to, go to school, get good grades, and then go out and get a good corporate job with benefits. So I interviewed with a couple of Wall Street firms, wanted to go to Wall Street. That didn't quite work out, but the next best things was going into pharmaceutical sales. So I got a job with a big pharma company right out of college. I had the company car, had the expense account, the Amex card, wore a suit to tie to work every day. So I was doing well, and I liked it. Did that for about 6 years. But I realized when I was in corporate America that wasn't my destiny. I realized that I wanted more. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So that's when I started really reading about real estate. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad at age 21 when I was in the middle of my college career. And that opened my eyes to owning rental properties and cash flow and passive income. And I was like, I want to do that. I knew I wanted to do it. I didn't know how to get there, but that, really opened my eyes to, I want to be an investor. I want to own tons of real estate. And that was kind of how my journey started.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. So we actually have a similar story in that in regards to starting really young, right? Someone introduced me to the book, and I, from there, I knew that I wanted to be successful, but I didn't know, what path I was going to take. But somebody gave me the book. I was probably about 18 or 19. And like you said, it was like, oh, okay, being introduced to the idea of real estate and generational wealth building and entrepreneurship and things like that. And then saying like, okay, well, real estate is going to be the way. So tell us what that very first purchase was like, while you were living your best life, right? Having the dream job, dream car, dream company. Tell us what your first experience was like in regards to purchasing real estate.
Yeah, so you got to remember, this is the early 2000s. So I'm 40. I graduated college in 2004. So that was right as the market was taking off and booming. So I'm looking around, I'm seeing all these people making money in real estate, flipping houses, getting mortgages, prices going through the roof, mortgage brokers making millions. And I'm like, damn, I want a piece of that, but I didn't really know how to get into it. So, I would see the late night infomercials and, I responded to one of the ads and I went to the seminar. I think it was like a Fortune Builders or one of those seminars. And I signed up, for like $1,000 and got the little 3-day course or whatever. And then after the program, they upsell you on the coaching. And once I found out the price tag for the coaching was like 20 grand, I was like, I'm gonna stick with this little $1,000 I spent to try to figure it out on my own. That led me to another book, which was the title of the book was How to Buy Houses with No Money Down and Get Cash Back at Closing. This was in 2006. I read this book and I was like, hey, listen, I'm tired of renting an apartment. I want to buy my own property. Everybody else is buying houses. The market's going crazy. So I started looking at houses. I must have looked at 100 houses. And my goal was to house hack, right? Buy a triplex or a 4-unit, kind of what you specialize in teaching buyers to do, live in one of the units and rent out the other 2. And to top it off, I wanted to get a check back when I closed. Everybody told me I was nuts. They were like, you'll never be able to do that. What are you talking about? So that's what I went out and did, right? When I talked to my mortgage broker, my real estate agent, I explained to them what I was trying to do. They were like, look, we've been doing this 30 years, not possible. So I was like, okay, I'm the type of person, if you tell me something's not possible, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I went out, I bought a triplex in April 2007 in Boston for $407,000. I got 100% financing. So I got an 80% loan and a 20% loan which equaled 100%. So no down payment. And I got a check back for $1,200 when I closed. So I moved into the basement, garden level apartment, 1 bed, 1 bath, finished basement. I rented out the first floor for $1,200, rented out the second floor for $1,200. My mortgage was like $2,500. So I house hacked it. I only came out of pocket $500. Bought that in 2007. I still own that triplex to this day. It's now worth $800,000 and it cash flows, $3,000 to $4,000 a month.
Nice. So I want to know, so the second loan that you were able to get to cover your down payment, what was, how'd you find that? Because like you said, all of the professionals that you were working with all told you that it couldn't be done. So what was that like?
Yeah, it was Countrywide Home Loans, which ended up going out of business for doing subprime loans. Again, my 80% loan was like 6% interest rate. And then the mortgage broker's like, hey, we can do an 80-20, not going to a different lender. We can split it up. The 20% loan was a smaller amount, but it was a higher interest rate. It's like 8%. I bought it in 2007. One of my best friends, who was a MBTA bus driver, he bought a duplex the same time as me. 3 months after me, he bought it for $250. I paid $408. So I paid more than him because the market crashed shortly thereafter. But the key is I didn't sell. Even though I was underwater, I paid $400 and my property value went down to $250. I didn't sell. I did whatever I could. I never missed a payment. Part of it was having tenants helping me pay my mortgage, right? And I just held on to it through the downturn. It took 5 or 6 years for that property value to go down and come back up. But I was like, I'm never selling, right? If you don't sell, you can't take a loss. And eventually it came back. So that's how I did it.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because, I hate to say it, but I feel like we might be in some 07, 08 times right now, right? Like with there being low inventory and properties being at an all-time high, and then interest rates are going back up. And a lot of people are being cautious in regards to purchasing or not purchasing at all. So what would you say to people that are purchasing right now in a time in which like you did? Because I believe there are cycles in real estate and history repeats itself, right? And then, I mean, was there any fear through that, or like, tell us about that.
Yeah,
You thought about selling?
There was fear, there was doubt, there was analysis paralysis, all that. I remember I closed on the house, and like a month after I closed, I came home one day and I stepped into my basement apartment, and I stepped in like 2 inches of water. And I was like, what the hell's going on? And I found out the water heater had busted. I had never experienced that. So like I almost broke down. I called one of my buddies, like, yo, there's water in my apartment. What's going on? He's like, oh, it's probably a water heater. Got it fixed or whatever. But there's always going to be fear. There's always going to be issues when you own property. As far as the overall market, you're right. The market does go in cycles. And we've been in an unprecedented up cycle for the past 10 years, right? So that's not going to last forever. I see it coming to an end. I don't see the market crashing because there's some fundamental differences between now and 2008 when the market crashed. Yes, there's some irrational exuberance of these prices just going through the roof for the past 3 or 4 years, but part of that's caused by the pandemic, the record low interest rates. I think the difference in 08 was they were lending money to anybody who can fog a mirror. So literally, I had one of my best friends I went to high school and college with. He was a substitute teacher for Boston Public Schools. They gave him 3 loans to buy 3 triplexes in Boston on 3 consecutive days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he got approved for a $500,000 loan each day. So they gave him $1.5 million in loans in 3 days. None of the banks knew what the hell was going on. And it didn't matter. They would just, hey, how much do you make? He really made 40 grand a year. He put on the application 120, they gave him the loans. So it was stuff like that going on everywhere, which caused the market to crash. Those type of things aren't going on today. You got different dynamics. You got inventories at record lows. You got interest rates at record lows. So again, I don't think we're going to continue to see the 10, 20, 30% appreciation every year. It's going to go back to single digits, but I don't think the market's going to crash.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for that insight. And so speaking of the market, so we talked about, that very first purchase and what that was like, which I'm sure a lot of people can get inspired by that because house hacking has become, such a thing, such a popular thing over the past couple of years, but and what's funny is that it's not anything new, right? Like people took advantage of it for years and years and years to come. And now a lot of folks are just catching on. But fast forward to, you are married now, you and Krystal, you guys have been building a portfolio. You have 2 young boys. What was real estate like when you guys started to build together?
Yeah, so I met Krystal in 2009, and she changed my whole world, came in and rocked my world. And I'm the more conservative one in our relationship. She's definitely more aggressive and more of a risk taker. So when I met her, she was like, hey, every single week she had a new business she wanted to start. She's like all gas, no brakes. So when I met her, she was working 3 jobs, supporting half her family. And I was like, okay, we got to stop that too. Right? But our first business together was Airbnb. This was in 2012, before Airbnb was a household name. We were dating. She had an apartment. I had a house. She was always over at my place. So I had heard from a coworker about this site called Airbnb. He was like, yeah, every time I go to New York, I rent out my place in Cambridge and it pays for my trip to New York. And I was like, what are you talking about? 2011, 2012. He was like, this site called Airbnb. So I told her, like, look, you're always over at my house. Your apartment's sitting vacant. Why don't we rent it out? And she was like, how much can you make? And I told her, she was like, okay, my brother's staying here right now, but give me like a week or 2, I can have him out. And I was like, you sure? She was like, yeah, he ain't paying rent, so he got to go. So she called her brother, was like, look, you got to get up out of my apartment. You know how your girl is. And he was out of there, and we put it on Airbnb. And within that first month, we made like $5 grand, and in a 4 or 5 month period, we made like 30, 40,000. And that was our first foray into real estate, investing in 2012.
Nice. And so from there, you guys have done wholesaling, flipping, buying and holding, the entire spectrum of investing in real estate. Some people may look at you guys and consider you guys to be wholesalers, but I know that you guys are much more than just that, right? Like you have a brand around real estate, but more so buying and holding and building generational wealth, right? So I believe there's, a misconception there in regards to, real estate investing and then wholesaling. Is it really investing, or how you can leverage wholesaling to actually build wealth? So talk to us a little bit about that.
First of all, I love wholesaling. Wholesaling is just an extra strategy, though. It's a beautiful extra strategy. I love it. But we are primarily buy and hold investors. Our whole reason for getting into real estate was to buy as many rental houses as we could and to have money chasing us so that after we pay all our bills, we still have, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars left over. So we're living that, financial freedom lifestyle. So how do we get there is we got there from wholesaling. We started out wholesaling so that we can get cash and capital to buy more rental houses. That's why wholesaling is a major strategy where you can basically create money out of thin air. So again, we believe in multiple streams of income approach to real estate investing. So we're not wholesalers, we're not flippers, we're not even just strictly landlords. We employ different exit strategies depending on the deal. So that's what I consider a true investor, somebody who has different tools in their tool belt, and depending on what tools needed to get the job done in that deal, they can employ it. Whether it's creative financing, seller financing, doing transactional funding, using hard money. I believe you should know a little bit about a lot, and that's how you can get the most amount of deals done and make the best return on your investment.
What would you say has been one of the what has played a pivotal role in regards to you being able to understand and utilize all of these strategies?
That's a good question. I think it comes down to mentorship and coaching. People look at us, and this isn't something overnight. This is 10, 20 years of studying, reading, taking action, making mistakes, failing, seeking advice, hiring experts. So this is kind of the culmination, and this is just the beginning for us. We're shooting for the multi-billion-dollar portfolio mark. But again, I think it's mentorship. We really got serious about hiring mentors. I think we hired our first mentor in like 2017, right? We were looking to get into investing. We hired a mentor to teach us how to flip houses. The only problem was we didn't have the money to flip houses at the time, and we didn't know how to use other people's money. So she taught us how to flip houses, but we didn't have the cash to take down any deals. So she was like, all right, you guys need to learn marketing because you need to learn how to find deals and you need to learn wholesaling. So we went to the boot camp to learn how to find motivated sellers. And that kind of opened up the wholesaling. Then we started wholesaling. And within, it took us about a year and a half to actually close our first deal. But within a year and a half, we went from having 3 rental units to like 18, like that. So it was kind of like that build up, and then everything started happening pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that because what I hear is that, first of all, you weren't just listening to as much free information as you could, and then was hoping that something would happen from there. And I'm not knocking the free information though either, because now, in 2022, you really can get a degree off of YouTube, like in any field that you're studying, right? Like we call it YouTube University for a reason. But in regards to, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to, free channels and YouTubes and things like that. But you guys actually not only invested the time, but you also invested money to show up and say, hey, we specifically want to learn this skill, this exit strategy, this specific niche. And so that helped you build up, those different tools in your toolbox. And then once you actually spent the money, made the investment, showed up and learned, you didn't get your first deal right away. You didn't close on your first deal right away.
No, we were trying, but it took a while. And did we think about quitting? Multiple times we thought about quitting, but investing in that mentorship and spending that 5, 10, 15,000 we've paid. And again, a lot of times we didn't have the cash in our bank account. We had to turn to credit cards, business credit, personal credit, and it was stepping out on faith. So we had to bet on ourselves. And I'm like a Nazi with my credit, right? So that was burning the ships for me. Hey, here's $10,000 for this mentorship or this coaching or this marketing campaign. It's not like, will this work? It's like, this has to work because I ain't trying to ruin my credit. So that was the burning the ships that made us be like, okay, we got to make this happen no matter what.
Yeah. And did you guys, were the kids here yet?
Yeah. We had during this time, my first son was born in 2013. So we had one kid, and then the second one came along in 2017. So we're doing this. When we first started, I had a full-time job doing software sales. I was making six figures doing that, but working 40 hours a week. The key was I was working from home so I could do my job and handle my business. And then at the same time, I had two laptops. One, I'm doing my work stuff, and over here, I'm doing my real estate stuff. And Krystal had a job at the time too, and we had two kids. So, there's no excuses of, oh, I'm married, oh, I got kids, oh, I got a job. We had all that going on when we first got started.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I asked, because there are those excuses, that people will come up with. I mean, I actually, I spoke at a women's brunch this past weekend in Detroit. And this girl walked up to me and she's doing Airbnb and she's successfully doing Airbnb. But then she tells me, oh, I want to wholesale and I want to flip and I want to do this and that. And I said, and I just looked at her and I said, well, what's stopping you? And she just got emotional right away. And she was like, I guess I'm stopping myself, right? When you get real with yourself and get real honest, and when you've been saying that I've been wanting to do something for, 6 months, and then that turns into a year and 2 years, and all you keep saying is that I want to, or I've been wanting to do, what is stopping you from doing it? Because there are no excuses, period. If you are not laying on your deathbed, if there is breath in your lungs, you can get up and you can go after whatever it is that you say you want. You just have to want it bad enough. And I totally relate, having that 9 to 5 and building that business on the side. I mean, I was in my cubicle and had my laptop right there on the side. So I get it. I understand. But thank you so much for sharing that, because again, I know there's so many people who are transitioning out of their 9 to 5 or want to transition out, and they're just like, how do you make the time, to do it? Right.
And one thing I want to add to that is, don't be in a rush to quit your day job. I know a lot of us, some of us want to get out of our day job and become full-time entrepreneurs, but leverage your day job to make that transition. What I mean is, what I did was, again, I was making over 150,000 a year. So it wasn't easy to walk away from that type of income. But I strategically did it, right? When you make that type of money, even if it's 50 grand a year, when you have a W-2, you can now go into the bank and you're more lendable than an entrepreneur a lot of times, because you have a W-2 pay stub you can show them. So use that. I used that in our first 2 years in the business, where I would take down properties and they would say, okay, well, you want a loan? Okay, credit score, great. You got an 800 credit score. Let me see your pay stub. Show me pay stub. Okay, you look great on paper. Sure, we'll loan you the money to buy this house. Just give us 5% down, 3% down, whatever it is. You got it. So we got up to like 12, 18 units while I was still working, because I was able to leverage that. If I would have left my job prematurely, it would have taken a little more time to buy more of those rental houses.
Yep. And you probably would have had to put way more down, and you probably would have had to have higher interest rates. So
exactly.
Yeah, leverage your job, right? Leverage your 9 to 5 to build up your portfolio, if that is a goal of yours. Cool, good stuff. So moving right along, let's talk about the show. Let's talk about, why I said at the beginning, hey, we have a superstar on. Let's talk about 50/50 Flip on A&E. You are a co-star of that amazing show, which I've had the pleasure to watch, tune in, learn from, support. And I'm just so excited for you guys, in regards to everything that's coming from that, but more importantly, just really who you guys can inspire, right? Like, you guys are out there and you're painting, not even just painting a picture, but living real life. What it's like to be a true entrepreneurial family, bootstrap your way from 9 to 5 to full-time entrepreneurship while raising a family, and then building a business with your significant other, right? Which I'm sure, you know, you guys talk about all the time. But first, so congratulations on the show.
Thank
But
you.
let's talk about how that all came to be.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're blessed and humbled. Yeah, on national television. It's crazy when I think about it. How it all came to be is it came from social media. It literally came from this iPhone documenting our process for the past 5 years of learning how to invest in real estate, walking properties, meeting with contractors. Literally, we documented the entire process. If you go to my Instagram and our Facebook, you can go back to 2017 and see the beginnings of it, right? It's all documented on social media. And over time, we built a following, right? Over time, we started inspiring people. We didn't really set out to know that was going to happen, but people were like, man, it's inspiring what you guys are doing. And then, you know, people started to take notice. And that's when television networks started contacting us. And then eventually A&E came calling. And here we are with our own national home renovation show.
Nice. And so what was life like filming with two boys?
It was a lot. It was a lot. Filming a television show, we didn't realize it's like a full-time job. So literally we have 4 different companies that we run between our wholesaling and flipping business, our buy and hold business, our Airbnb business, our education company, plus 2 kids, plus being married. So that's like 8 full-time jobs right there. Plus adding a television show where literally we would be on set at these properties filming 8 to 10 hours a day. So it was a lot, but again, we've been blessed and humbled for just to have that opportunity.
And then throughout filming the show, like you said, you guys are actually doing real estate, right? You're actually doing real estate.
We really do this. It's
right,
not
exactly. You're really doing real estate and showing the process. And so what was some ups and downs in regards to working through deals while also filming at the same time?
Yeah. It's crazy because again, it's being on set and they're like, hey, action, you got to be on. Then once they say cut, you're in between takes, getting calls from contractors, getting calls from the title company. Hey, we had a closing tomorrow, but something happened. It's getting pushed back to Friday. So what we've been focused on the last couple of months is really just building out our team and building out our systems to automate as much as possible. So I feel like we're in a much better place going into our second season because we know what to expect and how much time, which we have a team that we've built out to really streamline the process behind the scenes.
Okay, yes, shout out second season. But also, so good because so many times we talk about the team, right? The team, the structure, the infrastructure, how important that is. And what does your team look like? So when you talk about like building out a team in order to automate things, like who are, you know, those key personnel and like what roles are we talking about? Like an executive assistant, an admin? Are we talking about operations? What does that look like?
Yeah, so our team is me and Krystal, of course, the president and vice president of PoliteProperties. We have an executive assistant. We have a project manager. We have construction managers. We have general contractors that handle a lot of the rehabs. On the rental property side, we have a property manager for our regular long-term rentals. We have a different property manager for our Airbnbs because that's a different beast. That's really hospitality management. And then we have, what else? On the wholesale side, we got acquisitions managers that are calling sellers, motivated sellers, and getting deals under contract. We have cold callers. So we have a pretty big team that's constantly growing. We're always looking for A players to add to our team.
Okay, shameless plug. So if you're looking to join the Be Polite team, send a resume.
Yep. Inboxes. Only A players, though. You got to be A player looking to join a rocket ship. That's what we're building here.
I know that's right. And then you mentioned that you guys have a program that you have. So I know, that you guys, even Krystal, you guys have had a lot of success doing driving for dollars, right? And so much so that, you have a program around that. And then you have some other programs coming out. So tell us, talk to us about that. What is driving for dollars? What does that mean? How, have your students been able to, take advantage of it and have success? And then what that, looks like, what you guys are transforming your community into today.
Yeah, so I mean, we consider ourselves do-ros, not gurus. I know my boy Nas, he just trademarked that, but literally, we really do the business. So one of our most effective ways of finding these off-market deals at wholesale prices has been driving for dollars. And for anyone who's been living under a rock and maybe don't know what that is, some people may not know, is literally going throughout your everyday life, but opening your eyes and being like, okay, that house is run down. Why is it boarded up? They didn't cut the grass. What's going on? And imagine that each house that you saw that was run down, if you can 30 days later, that's a $10,000 direct deposit into your account. How many of those houses would you find? Right? That's why literally everywhere we go, me and my wife drive for dollars. It's like second nature now because every house is a potential $10,000. That's if we wholesale it. That's on the low end. We've made over six figures on one wholesale deal multiple times. Now, if we flip it, it could be $50,000 to $100,000, right? So that's driving for dollars, seeing properties, and instead of pulling out your legal pad and writing it down while you're driving, using the app that we work with, putting into the app, snapping a picture, and then sending that person a postcard saying, "Hey, I'm so and so. I buy houses in this neighborhood. Just want to know if you're interested in a cash offer on the property." And that's literally been one of our most effective ways of finding deals. We've bought multi-million-dollar properties for thousands of dollars just when we found them through driving for dollars. So that's what we've taught initially. We only teach what works for us. We don't just, teach anything that hasn't worked for us. But we're passionate about sharing what's worked for us so that other people can achieve similar type of results.
And then, like you mentioned, that's what you guys have taught. I know you have a course, a driving for dollars course, and then a whole community around that. And then you have some other educational programs that are coming out as well. Tell us about those.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the TV show, again, we have a whole new audience of people discovering us and finding us. They want to, hey, how do I do a 50-50 flip? Right. And the reason we named the show 50-50 flip, the whole premise is that we flip houses in 50 days or less for 50,000 or less in renovation costs. Right. Typical house is a 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square foot. And depending on where you are in the market, that may or may not be feasible. Maybe not in Boston or LA, but maybe in Chicago, right? Lower price market, and definitely in North Carolina. And we wanted to make it attainable for the average individual, right? The average individual can come up with $50,000, either their old savings, their 401k, friends, family, what have you, to do their first flip. So that's what we're going to be teaching in this new program is literally how to duplicate what we did on national television, which was a 50-50 flip and the whole formula for doing that. So that program should be coming out within the next 1 to 2 months. So stay tuned for that.
Nice. I'm signing up for that. I want to do some 50-50 flips in Chicago.
We got you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what's been my lowest reno amount on a flip, probably like 80,000. So if I can get it under 50, that'd be great.
Right. And again, depending on your market, you may spend 80,000, but your profit potential may be 100,000, 150. Right. So it's worth it.
Call it 80-80, right?
80-80 flip.
Good stuff. So I do want to talk about landlording because you and Krystal are, like you said, buy and hold investors. I mean, first of all, you're a creative engineer, so you can work your way into and out of really any deal, right? If there's a deal there. But I do want to talk about landlording and management because you guys do have a good amount of units right now in your rental portfolio. And I want to talk about the pros and cons to that, right? Because I feel like so many people are like, oh, well, I don't want to be a landlord because of this. And then, or I don't want to hire a property manager because of this, right? So there's all the cons that people talk about. I'm sure, at the beginning, while you guys were building, you self-managed, as most people do. And then some people continue to self-manage and build out a management company in-house, or some people do the whole third party thing. So tell us about that journey through landlording. I'm sure, obviously there's been a ton of lessons, but yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah. So again, I love rental houses. I love cash flow. But again, it's not always unicorns and rainbows. Like anything else, owning rental properties and being a landlord has its pros and cons. What I've found is over the years of being a landlord, it's more pros and cons. We started out self-managing. Like I told you, I bought my first house in 2007. I was 25. All my tenants were like twice my age. So imagine, 50-year-old people, they got to go downstairs and pay the 25-year-old landlord rent. For their ego, I'm sure they was like, damn, I gotta go pay this boy this rent. Like, what the hell? But I was the landlord, right? I don't advise living next to your tenants, but if you house hack, sometimes you got to do that. When I met Krystal, she actually, created that separation where she created this management company where they had to call the manager instead of contacting me, right? Just to get the personal relationship out of that. But right now we're up to almost 70 units that we own. I don't talk to tenants. I don't deal with tenants, right? We have third-party property managers. Why? Because I have better things to do with my time. We have professional managers that they deal with the tenant issues. They deal with, maintenance, repairs. They deal with evictions if necessary. So I encourage everyone. Now, a property manager is perfect? No, there's no such thing. You have to manage that manager. And we gone through different property managers? Absolutely. But we found some good ones now, and it's worked out. Another thing to add is creative financing has been huge in building our portfolio. Again, we just closed on our first mobile home park, and we bought it for $800,000. And this park is worth over 1.1 million. And we literally got a check back for $3,300 when we bought this mobile home park, this $1 million mobile home park. And as far as cash flow, that mobile home park, we've only owned it for like 3 or 4 months. It's been the most amazing cash flowing rental that we've ever had. So definitely looking to buy more of those. But houses, anything that produces cash flow, we're buying.
So I definitely want to break that down. So you talked about a few things there. So you mentioned that Krystal, first of all, created the property management company from that first 3 units. So who was she the one answering the calls? Who was the property manager that was answering the calls on that 3?
Yeah, your sister, she no nonsense, right? So they used to try to get over on me and, take my kindness for weakness. But she didn't play, right? So she literally created a Gmail address. So she named it like Priestley, Eggleston Property Management at Gmail. She created a Google Voice number. And which when we started dating, she was like, look, you're not answering calls. You're not dealing with tenants, right? It's too much personal relationship they trying to get over. I'm going to create a separation. And literally she contacted all tenants and said, hey, this is the new property manager. This is the email. This is the phone number. You will no longer be dealing with Dedric. And it was a night and day. The difference in how they, address someone that they don't know personally, they don't have that, oh, I got a sob story month after month. Mm-hmm. And again, something as simple as that. Now, of course, you hire a real property manager. Again, I'd advise doing that. It's worth the 8 to 10%. And believe me, I'm very frugal. So first I was like, oh, I don't want to give up 10% of my rents to have a manager. Listen, I'll gladly give it up to lessen the amount of headaches I have from dealing with tenants to have a property manager.
Yeah. So the next thing is when you are looking for a property management company, when someone is looking to hire, what are some questions they should be asking? What are some of the things that they should be looking for?
Good question. Always go off referrals. So I would ask around town and see, who do people recommend? Landlords, who is their go-to property manager, right? I'll look at Google. What is their rating from Google? Like, what did the tenants say about this management company? If you look them up on Google, is it 1 out of 5 stars or is it 4 out of 5 stars? That's going to tell you something as well. So I would say, again, referrals and doing your online research and also making sure that they manage the types of properties that you own, right? If they manage all big multifamily 200 unit apartments and you got a triplex, they may not be the best management company for your type of property. You may need a smaller management company that manages mom and pop 1 to 4 unit properties.
Good stuff. And then you mentioned the mobile home park being, the best cash flow that you've experienced thus far. But more importantly, I want to talk about the structure of that, because you mentioned like creative financing, and I don't want to breeze over that because I know you have taken down a number of properties through creative financing. And I think it's a great idea. It's a great opportunity. But what are some, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the structure of the mobile home park, but even any other deals, that you've taken down, and how you even learned about creative financing, right? Like how to structure it. Obviously, you've got to get your attorney involved and basically have, the right paperwork, and you got to be able to negotiate it and explain it to the seller, right? So let's talk about all of that creative financing as a whole.
Yeah, and that's a lot. It's a lot to unpack, but so creative financing, seller financing has been a game changer for us. It's been an absolute game changer. The reason being is because most investors, whether you're a fix and flip, landlord, wholesaler, they just know they have a one-track mind. I need to get this at 70% of ARV minus repairs. This is my offer. The problem is that 99% of the time that offer is going to get rejected. Why? Because if the seller's not motivated, they don't need to accept pennies for their house. They're not going to. So most investors don't have a plan B when that first offer gets rejected. Knowing owner financing, knowing how to structure deals, I mean, it's been a game changer because here's the difference. My mentor who taught me how to do owner financing, he said, listen, would you ever buy $100,000 house for $100,000? Most people would be like, heck no, I'm an investor. I got to get that house at $50,000 to make a profit on it. He's like, that's where you're wrong. If they name the price, what if they let you name the terms? Meaning, yeah, I'll buy $100,000 house. Your asking price, I agree to, but here's the terms. I'll pay you $1 a year for the next 50 years. And then at the end of 50 years, then I'll pay you off. That makes it worth it to buy that $100,000 house for $100,000, right? So it's all about the terms. So what I learned was that, again, that mobile home park, when I looked at it, I went and I offered the seller, I was like, I did my numbers, 37 lots, there's 2 single family homes, there's a duplex on the property, there's a commercial storefront, ran my numbers. I was like, okay, I can only offer him like 500,000. I called him up. Hey, Mr. Franklin, I would love to buy 500,000 cash. He said, go kick rocks. I said, well, why? What do you mean? He's like, I've been offered over $1 million for this property, son. He's like 90. Why would I sell this to you for 500,000? I'm not stupid. I was like, okay, good point. So I was like, okay, well, realistically, how much do you want? He was like, listen, I've been offered over $1 million. I like you. We've done business together. Give me 800,000 for it. I said, okay, I offered you 500. Now you want 800. So I was like, okay, how about this? How about if I give you 800,000, but here's how we structure the deal. I'm going to give you $10,000 cash down at closing. You're going to hold a note for $790. You own it free and clear. You're going to hold a note for $790,000. I'm going to pay you $2,000 a month for the next 10 years. And then whatever I owe you after 10 years, whatever the balance of that $790 is, I'm going to cut you a big check. I'll either sell the property, refinance, and I'll pay you off. He had been a tired landlord and he's 90 something. He's like, okay, let's do it. So literally we wrote up the contract at closing, $10,000. He wrote a note for $790. Mind you, this mobile home park brings in over almost $10,000 a month. My payment to him is $2,000 a month. But he was tired of being a landlord and he was used to getting that cash flow. And he's like, look, I'm 90 something. I'm probably not even going to live the 10 years for you to continue to pay this. But he's like, look, if something happens to me, my wife is used to getting this rent money, this cash flow. So I want her to be taken care of. And I know you're going to continue to pay her. So absolutely. So that's how we structured the deal. And after all the rent credits and the security deposits and everything, that $10,000 I was supposed to put down, I actually got a check back for $3,300 at closing.
So you got a mobile home park for free. basically.
I got paid to buy a mobile home park.
Right, you got paid to buy a mobile
In the
home.
ARV of that mobile home park, once we put about 100,000 improvements to it, it'll be worth over 1.5 million. We bought it for 800,000.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this man has a national television show. But no, good stuff, good stuff. Man, well, this has been an awesome interview. We jam-packed a lot of information in. So thank you for being a great champ throughout this interview and answering all the questions, dropping all the gems, sharing all of the information that you shared. Where can people find you, follow you, and support all that you guys have going on?
Sure. Again, we appreciate the opportunity and the interview. Rashana, you're family to us. Where can people find us? They can just look up Dedric Polite and Krystal Polite. We're on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Look up Be PoliteProperties. Also find our television show where, again, for 60 minutes each episode, we're breaking down how we're doing all this stuff. It's called 50/50 Flip. It's on A&E. It's available on demand, or there's Hulu, whatever streaming service you got. Just look up 50/50 Flip. You can also go to dedricandkrystal.com. Look us up there. And again, we're going to be dropping some training, some mentorship programs very soon. So stay tuned for that as well.
Good stuff. Well, I'm definitely signing up and making sure I subscribe so I get all of the launch dates and information as it comes out. But again, thank you so much for sharing all of the information. I'm sure people took notes. I was taking notes, right? I couldn't even write fast enough. But again, thank you for being on our first ever Wealthy Kings virtual summit.
Thanks for having me.